All right, thanks for tuning in once again. It's Ishmael Sistrunk from the St. Louis American and STLamerican.com. Here with Rams Roundup columnist Palmer Alexander III. Palmer, we have finally reached the end of the season. The Rams go out against the Seattle Seahawks 20-13. It's a loss that we were both expecting, but the Rams, they were in the game. They made it close. They had an opportunity to win. What happened? Why did they lose this game? Do you think they should have won, or do you think the Seahawks were just a better team?
It was a game that I felt that the Rams could have won. And the reason why I say that is that last week when I said if the game is close, low-scoring game, it favors the Rams, and it was a low-scoring contest. But when you have more penalties than you have points, you're not going to win. I mean, 14 penalties for 98 yards. It was a little undisciplined, not a little, but very much so undisciplined, and that ended up costing them in the game.
Now, how much of that, we talked about a little bit last week, how much was the Seattle crowd, they went undefeated at home this season, how much did that play a role in the Rams kind of, just losing it down the stretch? They held a lead, they seemed like they were in control, but at the end, Seattle was able to make that drive. How much did the crowd play in that, and how much of it was just the guys on the field?
I think it was. I'm not going to give the Seattle Seahawks crowd that much credit because the Rams went in there and they played well. They played extremely well. But you had a few guys in there, a few of the younger players that don't play a lot. Wayne Hunter had a really boneheaded penalty, the 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct. Joe Barksdale, one of the other rookies, had a bad penalty. Shelley Smith had a bad penalty. So, you have some young guys playing in that environment for the first time, and those things happen. Unfortunately for the Rams, that they end up suffering a defeat, but I think this was a good learning tool for them, and it's still that game that they had. It was something to build on.
Yeah, and it seemed to me like that game was kind of a microcosm of the Rams season, where they were much improved this year, but they're not really ready to get over that hump yet. Like, they're that close, but they're not really there. And that's how that game was. They led, they seemed like they were in control, but when it came down to the crunch time, they just weren't quite ready to get over that hump. Right,
and then, the execution, wasn't as crisp as you would like it to be. In that last drive, Bradford just wasn't able to sustain a drive to go down there and possibly tie the game. He did a decent job of moving the ball down the field, but in that last drive, they just couldn't really put nothing together. Despite all the penalties, no sacks. 2 games in a row. When was the last time we were able to say that? So, Bradford had chances to in that game. Just that I guess it reared its head again about the receiving corps. Nobody could really get open. I think the Seahawks have one of the best secondaries in the league, hands down.
Now, when you talk about Sam Bradford, he had 42 passing attempts, went 25 for 42, 252 yards. Steven Jackson, on the other hand, 54 yards. Rushing, 45 yards receiving. Do you think they should have got the ball to Steven Jackson more, or do you think that they did what they had to do given this what Seattle's defense was showing them?
I think they had to throw the ball more because Seattle was bottling up the run. They wasn't giving him nothing. And in that case, you got to start throwing the ball to loosen them up, and I think that's what they did. And I didn't have no problems with that because they just wasn't having any success. Seattle front four is awesome. Great front four, great all over on defense. So you have to do some things differently against them, especially when you're on the road. You want to run the ball, control the clock, but they wasn't having any success. The Rams was having some success with the pass blocking. Guys just couldn't get open. So you have to look at both of those factors into why the Rams came up short too.
Now, how do you rate the Rams defense? We know everybody talks about Marshawn Lynch in beast mode, and he had 100 yards on 18 carries, which is a solid day.
Yeah.
It's not a big, huge day that they got. Russell Wilson, 15 for 19, really managed the game well. Only 250 yards. He had a good solid game.
Yeah.
But he wasn't throwing the ball all around the field, and that it was a low scoring game. So that's what showed. But how do you think the Rams defense did?
I think the Rams defense was adequate. I mean, first let's give props to, they had 6 sacks. They sacked them 6 times. And it was one of those things, they brought pressure. There was a couple of big pass breakdowns. The one play when he threw the 40-yard pass to Golden Tate. I mean, he's pretty much wide open. Tremaine Johnson decided to go after, Russell Wilson once he thought he was going to break the pocket, and then he left this receiver. You got to stay with your receiver at all times, and I think he knows that. That was a rookie mistake. I mean, but for the most part, again, I'm talking about the same characters that are making plays every week. William Hayes with a sack, Joe Dunbar, make something happen. I got to give the Seahawks credit. They made Laurinaitis a non-factor. It was almost as if Pete Carroll and Darrelle Revis, everybody, they said, you know what, we're not going to let James Laurinaitis be a key factor into the game. And I think that, the protection did hold up long enough for Russell to have a, decent passing game. You would hope that in that one instance where, Tremaine Johnson got his hands on the ball, you hope that he holds onto the ball. The Rams tip, he only had 4 incomplete passes. And on 2 of those incomplete passes, you was hoping that they might have got a pick, but they didn't.
So you didn't. You talked about that play, but you didn't bring out your favorite Ram. Is this going into the new year?
I mean, you saw him on the field. You saw what he did, and I mean, I just they say don't beat a dead horse, and they say or don't kick somebody when they're down. But sometimes that's the best time to kick somebody. and
that's why I'm surprised that you didn't mention it. You talked about the play. You didn't mention his name. You didn't do anything. Guess you were going to let it ride for the new year. We all saw him miss that tackle, that open field tackle. So I guess that is one of the reliefs that I have that the season is over, so we can get rid of Rudy, because you can't win with Rudy out there, man. I mean, that just you would hope for more. He's just bad. I can't. He's just the worst. He is one of the worst St. Louis Rams that I ever saw. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Number 43. So I guess we'll go into the players of the game. This will be the last time that we do this for this particular season. Offensively, who's Palmer's player of the game?
Austin Pettis. And I know your kindness, this holiday kindness, rubbed off on me. Austin Pettis, great concentration when he caught the touchdown pass. The pass was tipped. He's not, he's not one of my per se, favorite guys. But he's made some difficult catches this season. And, he's become somewhat of a consistent target inside the red zone. So he caught his 4th touchdown pass yesterday. And so he's the player of the game. He may never get another one. But then he got one this time.
All right, what about on the defensive side of the football?
I got to give it to my boy, Joe Dunbar. And he's about as tough as they come, man. He's about as tough as they come. He got a sack, 11 tackles. I didn't know he had 16 tackles last week against Tampa after the coach reviewed the film. Such a great find, and hopefully the Rams brass can, get him locked down. After they take care of Steven, they got to take care of Joe Dunbar.
Yeah, and he's definitely been a surprising guy. He was a name you really hadn't heard.
Yeah.
He wasn't widely known around the league,
right.
But he came in from day one, and just worked his butt off. And,
right.
He's a guy that was always around the football.
Yes. He's definitely a tough SOB, man. Love him.
All righty.
Like that.
So for Ishmael's Intangible Player of the Week, I'm going to split it. I'm going to give it to Chris Long and Robert Quinn. I know they're not necessarily your favorite guys, but both of these guys finished the season double-digit sacks, getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They got different styles. Chris Long is a guy, he has some strength. He's also, one of those guys who just doesn't stop, just always keeps on in the play. Robert Quinn is more of a speed guy, but both of them are effective getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing with Chris Long now is I give him the Matt Holliday treatment. You know, and I'm talking about the Matt Holliday treatment. You know how everybody complains about Matt Holliday?
Right.
And then at the end of the season, you're like, oh, he got 3 home runs, 300 average, 100 RBIs.
Right.
Same thing with Chris Long. I won't bother Chris Long because he's giving you, and you know what, consistently double-digit sacks. Robert Quinn, I know I was a little hard on him a couple of weeks ago, but this is his first full year starting, so you have to give him some time to develop. He has a lot of skill, great speed rusher, and he was able to secure the sacks. He got a couple of sacks, and you know he's growing. He's growing as a player.
Definitely, and you know I think that's really the story of this team as a whole. You know, there's some people around town who were disappointed the Rams didn't make the playoffs. And to be honest, they were in enough close games to where if they would have pulled them out, we could be talking about a playoff team. But the thing I always say, you are talking about a team that won 2 games last season. You're talking about a team that was the worst 5-year or 7-year stretch in NFL history. So, you know, this turnaround, you know, it looks like they're on solid footing, and it's not like a couple years ago when they won 7 games. They had a really soft schedule. You know, this season the NFC West, you know, was a lot stronger. Seattle's in the playoffs, San Francisco's in the playoffs, so they don't have such a weak schedule. They had some good quality wins. They had a couple losses that, you know, look a little bad, but they've shown a lot of progression.
Yeah, and people forget, I mean, even though the Cardinals fell off the face of the earth, but they started off the season 4, no, they was hot as anybody in the NFL. And just like you said, the Rams have the 3rd toughest schedule in the NFL. You look at all the playoff teams that they played this year and look how they played. You know, with the exception of there was only 2 games this season where, well, one in particular where they got completely outplayed. That was the New England game. Right. The Green Bay game was a game, even though they beat by 2 touchdowns. You know, Green Bay was down for 16 on 3rd down. The Rams didn't have no problem getting on 3rd down. They couldn't stop them. We all know what happened in that Minnesota game. It was just, you know, bad coaching decisions. You had the clock thing in Detroit. You know, they had problems in Chicago, but they was in a lot of games, and that's all you can ask for of this team. And it was just like when we was at the Dome, and you know, I was talking with Les Snead, and he was just telling me about what his idea was when he took the job, and you are actually seeing something happen before our eyes, and I like it, the direction that they going, man. I really do.
Definitely, and one thing that I'm really looking forward to this offseason, we know they didn't make the playoffs. We're going to have to watch other teams compete for the Super Bowl, which the Rams weren't going to be in that hunt regardless. Even if they made it in, they weren't going to the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
But the thing that's different this year, I'm looking forward to the draft, because their draft this past offseason, they got some gems. They got some quality picks. In the past, I've lamented the draft. I've hoped, hey, trade away the draft picks, get some proven players, because you guys suck at drafting. Well, now they don't. Now they got Les Snead and Jeff Fisher and the office staff did a very good job. So I'm looking forward to see what they'll get in this draft.
Absolutely, and that was the thing. I think if people archive some of my draft stories, I have never wrote nothing good, nothing good, and it was kind of cool in this past draft. Guys like Isaiah Peed, Brian Quick, Janoris Jenkins, even Doug Martin. Those were 4 guys in particular. I'm like, okay, looked at some stuff on them and saying they would have been good fits. And 3 out of 4, they made. Derek Richardson was a great find. I still think Greg Zuerlein is a great find. And I'm telling you right now, with the Rams with the 16th pick and the 21st pick in the draft, and I've looked at a mock draft, and guess where somebody is sitting at number 16 if the draft was today. That guy that used to wear that uniform, Sheldon Richardson. Would you take him? Would you take him?
Yeah, hey, I got I love Sheldon Richardson. So you see, I got on the Mizzou shirt today. So bring them on. As many beasts as you can get out on that defense. Hey, bring them on. You did mention Greg Zuerlein. He missed another kick in this game. Yeah. He started off hot, and then he just got cold. I forget the exact numbers. It was something like 6 for 15.
6 for 13, and I keep going back to that Miami game when he missed his first 2 kicks from short distance, and then you asked him to kick a kick from 66 yards, which is totally bizarre. He got into a little bit of a funk, and I think that the Rams offense got so stagnant at times, they were depending too much on him. And they just needed to do a little bit better job on the offense. Get him a little bit closer, let him get into a little bit of a groove. It's just a funk. And I think that he'll be able to get himself out of it. They still got a great kicker in the future. I just think that, he has to learn how to get out of those funks. But outside of that, you have to be impressed with what he was able to do.
Yeah, but what can he do this offseason to avoid that? What can he do to be more consistent?
Oh, well, kickers is such a mental game, and I think like guys, Jeff Wilkins is a guy that a story was done on him. I think why Zerline had that great stretch, and kickers they got their own little different fraternity too. And there are a lot of great kickers that have passed through St. Louis, and they'll be willing to help him out or help him wherever he needs. But I think it's between the ears with him. We know he has the kick in the build. We know he has the leg strength. It's all between the ears with him. But I think consulting a guy like Jeff Wilkins, that'll be great because he had ice water in his veins. He did, and he didn't let little funks, deter him. I remember he struggled 10 years ago in 2002, and marched from the run of my town in 2003. Came back, had a Pro Bowl caliber year.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see the same thing out of Zerline. Like you said, he has a great leg, and he's shown at times that he can be consistent, but need to get that confidence back because I think that confidence is gone. But I think that that he'll bounce back. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams, bring in a couple guys to push him in training camp. We'll see whether they do that or whether they just put all their support behind him.
Well, you know what? That's sometimes competition brings out the best in the individual. You find out what kind of person that you got, and again, going back to Jeff Wilkins, when he struggled, Martz brought Stojanovic in. He brought a whole bunch of other guys in here. The threat of bringing in a trade for Hansen from Detroit, which he was never leaving Detroit. But those type of things, that's what, coaches do. And Jeff Fisher, he's always had great place kickers. And as you know, in Tennessee, they didn't light up the scoreboard, but one thing for sure, they was going to get 3 points, on pretty much every possession they got or tried to. Baronis did a great job kicking for them. Nedney did a great job kicking for them. So place kicking is very important. It's very important to Jeff Fisher. You've seen it with his teams before, and it's no different today.
Right. So wrapping it up, you mentioned Jeff Fisher. What would you rate him if you had to give him a letter grade? How would you rate his job in his first season?
I give him B minus. I give him B minus just from going from 2 wins to 7 wins with the schedule they play. There were some things during the season like I didn't get. The Minnesota game again. You have success when you have the 7-man fronts, and then you get away from that. Not utilizing Brian Quick more. Finding a role for Isaiah P. You notice Derek Richardson slowed down because he hit that wall, and I think a lot of rookies did. And then, not finding the right combination, but I think he had a lot of rust because he was out for a year. Right. So you have to give him credit for that. But he got a whole off season, and I think that he's going to come back even stronger. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, like I said before, Fisher's taking his team the right direction. He was off a year, but even with that, or off a little bit, but even after that, he came back. He resurrected this team. He made almost every game exciting. Like you said, the New England game, they got whooped, but almost every other game, they were in it. They could have went either way. So we brought Rams football back to exciting, to wanting to watching to the end. Last season was probably the first year where I was cutting off games at halftime and going and do something else. I like to watch games to the end, win, lose, or draw, but last season it was like, I gotta go. Yeah. I gotta make a sandwich or something. And that's the difference, I think, with Spagnuolo and Linehan. it got so bad where people stopped caring about football. And it comes at a pivotal point because now you're talking about the whole arbitration deal. We're going to find out in about 2 weeks what the arbitrator is going to decide. They're going to go with the CVC plan. They're going to go with the Rams plan. So it's very important to have a head coach like Jeff Fisher and somebody with some star power, with some credibility to come in and help resurrect this franchise. And hopefully this will get this thing going forward, and then we'll get the dome deal done as well.
Yeah, that'll be the next big thing. So make sure you keep tuned in to our channel. This is the last Rams game, so this of course will be the last show that we do about them for this season, but we will still be covering the dome deal. We still will be covering any off-season moves, the drafts, anything like that we're still going to have. We're also going to start jumping into some NBA coverage. Palmer will get you in on there as well, and doing different things. So make sure you stay tuned to our YouTube channel, YouTube/STL American Video. Make sure you stay on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Google Plus, everywhere. We're still going to be pumping out these videos. So we thank you all for tuning in with us throughout this whole season. And like I said, stay tuned. We're going to bring you more.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate everybody that's been supporting us, and we're just going to keep providing everybody out there with better coverage, man. I mean, this is what the people want. They want more and better coverage, and I'm doing more draft homework. You'll have more draft coverage than we had in previous years at American. I'm getting on my draft game right now. I threw out Sheldon Richardson. There's a couple other guys, so I got my free agent. I'm working on my free agent wish list, so that story will be coming soon. And I'll be on James Ingram's show on the 6th, talking more about the Rams and the St. Louis American. That's what we do, man.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Palmer. It's been a pleasure. And thank you all for tuning in. We're going to wish you a happy new year. Get 2013 going off right. And thanks for tuning in.